HEIRS. I'm excited to have you here and excited about this first community conversation. We can go to the next slide, please. So we will kind of do an overview. I'll talk a little bit about what the organization is and what we are striving to accomplish. I'll give a little bit of a story, and we'll talk about your ways that you can get involved with this project if this is something that moves you or inspires you. And we're hoping to have some community conversation. We know that these topics can be a source of pride, but in some situations, they can be pain points as well. And so we want to create safe space where we can have some conversations about our shared experiences with some of the elements of it, whether it be leaving property, inheriting property, um, navigating any of that. So that will be what we'll communicate here. Next slide. I see somebody's not seeing the thing. So we have two options for an icebreaker, and I'll read them out if people are having a hard time seeing the slides. Um, I would love for you to take a you can make a choice. You would say your name and tell us either one thing about your family heritage that you're proud of or you think is really worth preserving. Or you can tell us your name and what it means for your family. So, one of the two, if you feel so inspired, we would love for you to come and participate. And you can say your piece, and if you want to call out the next person who may have a hand raised, whether physical hand or virtual hand, we can take a couple of responses. So, again, it's either tell us something about your family heritage that you're proud of or you think is worth preserving, or tell us about your name and what it means to your family.
Hey, I'll jump out there and start. So I'm going to do the first one. Tell us something about your family heritage that you're proud of. And I'm going to add is worth preserving. I'm super proud of the fact that my grandparents worked extremely hard throughout their lives and made it so that they were able to have land to share with their offspring. And I think it's worth preserving because they're not making no more land. It's what we got. And so, not just to honor their legacy, but also to make sure that those that come after us have something to build, grow, and build generational wealth.
Thank you. Let's see. If you want to go next, you can raise a hand or we can just call you.
I go next.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I am Evan's godmother. Our families are connected generationally since the turn of the 20th century, actually somewhere in the 20th century early. And my name is Patricia Cole Saffold. And I did know Blondena as a child, briefly. Fantastic woman.
Hello, my name is Pat Brown Dixon, and we have a home in Arkansas that my mother and father worked hard to buy and to build on, and they wanted to keep it in the family forever. And it's a lovely, wonderful place. We're so proud of it. It's like a beacon in that county, actually. And it's just difficult. My brother and I are the last generation, that generation after my parents. And so my nieces, Paige, and other nephews and nieces are next in line to care for it or to take care of it or to dispense or whatever they would like to do with it. And it's very important. It was very important to my parents. It's very important to me. And I would like to see it provide some kind of legacy for our family and help also financially to help our kids go to college or do whatever else they might need to do.
Thank you so much for that. I see Taslim.
Okay. Hi, I could turn on my video for a second. I think I guess the first question, like many of the other uh, participants on the call, is the fact that my father and my grandfather, they have land that they've preserved over the years. It's hundreds of acres in Mississippi, and they have committed to my brother and his 14 siblings to only keep it in the family. So to pass down to their children and grandchildren. And so to this day, that's something that several of my cousins have homes on there. And so I love this whole, project and what Evan's doing. And many of like Evan is a creative, much of my work is talking about that fact, that proud fact that the heritage that I come from and the preservation of our land and taking agency over ourselves. Like you said, they don't make any more land. So, yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share the opening question? Maybe one more?
This is Sandra Crawford. I don't know if you can see me.
No, but I can hear you.
Okay. Back in the early 1900s, my great grandfather was lynched, and he owned 500 acres of land in Abbeville, South Carolina, and we are still trying to reclaim that property, and it is now owned by the power company in that area. So it was stolen from us, and when they lynched my great grandfather, all of his children were ordered to leave town, and they spread all over the United States. So it has been difficult to pull everybody back together, even with reunions, to reclaim this property.
I'm so sorry to hear that. And thank you for sharing that with us. There are lots of traumatic stories related to Black property in particular. Um, and thank you for sharing that part of your history. And where a lot of our need to advocate for our own property and our legal rights, it's not always about a lot of times it comes from institutional dysfunction, which I know that we'll talk about at some point, if not today. But thank you so much for sharing that. Let's go to the next slide. So we are here. One of the reasons that this organization, the inspiration for this organization came from my great grandmother, my mother's grandmother, who is Gail Walker, who's on this call. And she was a pioneer in her own right, came up from Augusta, Georgia during the Great Migration to establish herself in Chicago with the hopes of having a more access to freedoms for her children and for her children's children. She was she established a multi-unit property in the Bronzeville area and then also established a property in Western Michigan in what I will probably refer to as the Red Arrow Corridor. These are examples similar to your families of what I would call undocumented Black institutions. And we don't record them in the same way that we do nonprofit organizations. We don't record them in the same way um, because sometimes the way that Black families and Black wealth has been grown is dismissed. And one of the reasons that this organization was inspired is so that we can think about it differently and also have hold space to be able to have these kind of conversations. So Blondena's Heirs is dedicated to preserving and sharing these stories, traditions, and the histories of African American families. Our mission is to transform multi-generational oral histories into written and performing arts, in addition to informing and inspiring the next 5 generations. We want to do this through we want to make sure that people are able to make financially progressive decisions when it comes to their property. And financially progressive can be defined in a lot of different ways, as we'll learn through this series. But we want to do this through community conversations. We would like to partner for some legal mediation and legal mediators, legal representatives, and some mediation professionals, so that we can not only deal with the legal issues that relate to wills and trusts and all that, but also there's a lot of unspoken family hurt that happens when it comes to transfer of property. Um, and management of it. And so we're partnering with mediators to hopefully bridge those gaps in families so that that one property, whether it's a little house with 2 bedrooms or a huge plot of land with 100 acres, that doesn't cause a rift in our families, which is our first institution. We are hoping in the next 12 months to have some youth programs and start the Legacy Home Restoration Fund, which will hopefully assist some folks who are holding on to properties who need help with renovation, with partnership to partner with contractors, but maybe have access to additional materials. Um, and just in general, thinking about ourselves and the things that we do organically as institutions that need to be supported, funded, legalized, and protected. So that is the mission of this organization. Next slide, please. So I will talk later about ways to get involved and ways to donate. It is based on nonprofit organizations were created with the understanding that when a community believes in something, they will support it. That's the infrastructure that this is legally formed under. So that'll be a part of the conversation, but we'll be more intentional about talking about ways that you can get involved and ways to donate to our Seeds for Deeds campaign, which is our launching campaign for this organization. Next slide, please. So you may hear us say legacy property or heirs property. So just property that was built with the intent that it would be passed down for future generations, or if it wasn't built that way, it's been maintained for those reasons. I heard that in some of you all's stories that not only was it maintained to pass on, but it was maintained to generate revenue or stability or security for multiple generations. I believe many of um, our our elders have that in mind. Many of us have properties right now that we want very much to make it so that our heirs don't have to start all over again. Um, that's generational wealth. The fact that you don't have to start all over again, but you can pick up where your mother, your father, your grandparents left off. And that is something that we need very much in our community. So that's when we say that, this is what we're referring to. So I'm going to share, I was fortunate to receive a grant through the Illinois Arts Council. I proposed to the Illinois Arts Council that would be able to tell a little bit of story related to my great grandmother. So this is a very It's an excerpt of a story that kind of starts to spell that out. Yep, sure did. So I'm going to read this, and hopefully it will inspire some conversation and some reflections. Because I want to spend less time with me talking and more hearing about your experiences. So um, these are not all accurate names, but just this little excerpt for the sake of conversation. Dell stood smiling at the house, lost in what seemed like a trance. Standing on the land always took her back to her childhood. Somewhere in the early 60s, she was about 8 years old and still remembers the thrill of seeing the house for the first time with her grandmother. Nana, can we paint the house yellow? She asked eagerly. We can paint it whatever color you want, my Dell, her grandmother replied. That moment had been the final touch on what was already an extraordinary accomplishment. Her grandmother, a Black woman in a time of limited means, had raised the house from the ground up, acquired the land, furnished it, planted flowers, and cooked enough fried fish to feed an army in anticipation of the party that was coming the following week. All that was left to do was paint the outside in a color that felt a little fresher, a little bit more hopeful, something that captured the sunlight and honored her triumph. Dell could still see it, the children turning and running into the fields. Her 8-year-old legs seemed to carry her endlessly toward the trees, across the stretch of land. She had been the first of her grandmother's grandchildren to see the house, and she couldn't wait for the next weekend where her sisters and cousins would arrive. This little patch of miracle would soon have a nickname, probably something like the Bee for her grandmother's name. That next Saturday was magical. As quiet as the week before had been, this one was bursting with people. Blankets spread across the grass, picnic baskets brimming with treats, cars lined the winding hill like puzzle pieces, each trying to squeeze into the party. The patio was full of rocking chairs and a radio played loud enough to be heard across at least 3 of the 11 acres. Smoke curled from behind the houses as children ran wild and free in ways they never could in the streets of Chicago. In Chicago, where the blocks ended and the sidewalks stopped, and their mothers' watchful eyes were always close. But here, joy was untamed, safety was generous, and the time was theirs. It was a paradise. You should just level the house and build it back up from the ground. Her husband's voice interrupted, jolting her from the memory. The space that once held so much promise now looked tired and worn. The paint was peeling, the windows were foggy, the cement patio was cracked, and the rocking chairs were rusted and collapsing. And it was all so very expensive. Dell shot him a glare and took a deep breath. Their daughter came around the side of the house, having just finished inspecting the grounds. That tree's definitely going to have to come down, she said. It's threatening to fall on the roof. Another update, another bill, another task to the growing list of frustrations. The 3 of them stood in silence, each weighted down by the thoughts, the dreams, and the enormous responsibility of what had been left for them and before them. And I'll stop there. What did you hear, and what, if anything, resonated with your stories as it relates to heirs property?
All of it. I could just see the picture of where our home is and how the kids come and they run wild in the field, and there's a pond there, and my nieces put things out there for them to do, and it's safe. And I could just visualize what you were saying for our property as it is right now, except that it's in very good shape. There are things that need to be done, but it was as if you were saying our home in Arkansas.
other reflections?
Have very fond memories. I'm not from Chicago, but I live in Chicago. And I have very fond memories of both sets of grandparents who were homeowners in New York. They each had a home in Queens, and my maternal grandparents had a good amount of land for New York City. And there was a tree, like a tree you could actually climb. And I have such fond memories of cookouts in the backyard, right? There were dogs, there lots of grass where you could do tumble salts and all of that. And we would always climb in that tree. And I just hate that that house is no longer in our family. None of the houses, even the house owned by my great grandparents, actually, two sets of great grandparents in Brooklyn. Um, one is still in the family in Brooklyn, and another is no longer in the family. And the one that's still in the family probably will no longer be in the family. And it is in great disrepair, but it's in a gentrifying neighborhood, and the heirs to that house are not equipped. So very sad, but very happy memories of those homes.
Thank you.
I was going to chime in. Thank you for sharing that reflection. It really brought up a lot of different emotions as I was listening to you. And I think what I'll speak on, because there's so many things I want to say, but I'll just identify when she's daydreaming about the times that were and is disrupted by the husband's reflection of, you might as well just go ahead and level it. And I'm just considering how easy it is for people who don't have that heart connection or that historical connection to just come in and say, well, it's old, it's in disrepair, and it's going to cost us so much to do X, Y, and Z, and not really considering the costs that it will incur to our future by doing something like leveling the property or selling the property. There are these unseen costs for people who don't have that connection or those memories, and also the safety that so many of us connect with or remember about the homes that our grandparents and our great grandparents made for us, those spaces of like love and freedom and protection that are now seen as burdens. And like you said, there's heartbreak and pain, but there's also much joy around that. So that was really just a powerful reflection that you read.
I particularly enjoyed that reflection, and thank you for that, Evan, because I was with you at every step of the way. And as I was looking in the chat, Tony Anderson put something there, and it was just saying he was just thinking about the condition of our inheritances. And many times we inherit these robust and well stable properties or land, um, and much of it was acquired through vision. What I'm wondering is the vision communicated and conveyed to the next generation so that they too can foresee a vision for what the benefit of keeping this property in the family can be. Sometimes it may not be as it is served as it has been. It may not be just the luxury of a summer home. It may have to be something else. It may even, but I'm just embracing visionaries and the visions that went into it. And what does the present generation, the present heirs right now, what do we need to create in terms of a vision and again, resources so that the next generation can benefit from it. Benefit. I think about the the amount of the millions. I think 1/3 of Southern Black properties, um, totaling over 3.5 million acres, totals about $28 billion in assets and money that needed to have been passed on to the heirs. And so the visions and the communications that need to be had.
Yeah, thank you for that. Jean?
Yeah, I just really appreciate this, Evan and Gail, and thank you so much. And I've been listening to the stories and just thinking about, what I do as I'm farming, um, on land, looking for land, have a grandfather who lost his land, and friends like Sandra who, under horrific circumstances, and just thinking about in 1910 when the Black people would have been the majority uh, population in three southern states, South Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi. And
Mm-hmm.
about now, why were we were forced off our land. We just didn't get up and decide we're going to go to Chicago and live in a, one bedroom, one room kitchenette apartment. We were forced off through this kind of terrorism, which I think Sandra alluded to, and other things, heirs property as well. But at that time, there was a concerted effort of Southerners, white Southerners, to remove us off that land, just like our Native American brothers and sisters and family were. So I, I think, unfortunately, we've kind of missed the boat, just historically, and talking about land and trying to keep our land. Our land is worth billions of dollars, and we're basically landless in this country. If you want to look at it that way. And I think, what Gail is doing, what Evan is doing, what's the rest of you are doing is so admirable, is to get that land back, by any means necessary, because, people without a land, we're just lost. And so thank you so much for all of that.
Thank you. Other reflections?
Yeah, so there was a combination of things that I was experiencing as you were reading. Um, and one is like just the benefit of like oral history and oral stories. Um, I think hearing it from, although I heard it from your side, I heard it from other sides as you were talking too. And I think it's something that's very beneficial for stories to be passed down. So that was the first. The second was around, um, yes, there was a lot of joy in the story, but also there was a reality of now it's a weight on us to figure out how we're going to make this house what we remembered. So when I think about legacies and things that people are doing, sometimes, although it may be an amazing experience, there's also this weight of carrying it and paying for the things that probably should have been done but weren't being done. And my thought is like, how can weights be lifted? That was the thing I kept thinking of. Like, yes, we want this, but how can it not be so heavy? And as I was listening to what you were saying, I was thinking like, how can we aid Dale in this moment? Like, how can we aid, the other people in this story? How can we get people who may have perspective of let's just finish this, to more of understanding multiple sides instead of just the one. So those were the things that I kept thinking of. And thank you for sharing that and making it very real.
I am noticing in the chat, Pat brought up another interesting point, and I don't know if she wants to elaborate on that, is that many of those our generations, they were oftentimes under hidden and serious economic and social pressures. Although they had acquired a lot and they had quite a bit, there are still a lot of pressures to I guess, to hold on to it, to be able to converse with their descendants, what to do with it?
I think in some ways it's due to the fact that there's such a dichotomy of educational as well as social levels of our families. I run into, as you all may know or may not know, I'm from the Metropolitan Insurance Company and funeral parlors on 45th and King Drive. My uncle, my great uncle, he amassed what would be about $92 million. That's what he would be worth today if he were living. He was a millionaire in his time, but through certain legal, I would just call it ignorances of on his part, we lost everything to probate. And I think that's another problem. I'm also the keeper on my other side of my family of land in Southern Illinois that my great grandfather purchased. And since he was so-called passing for a white, was able to get the mineral rights for. And I think that the battles that I've had to go through to keep this land in the family, the legacy, this is our legacy on the McNeil side, have been just insurmountable when it comes to understanding. There is no vision because they don't understand the import of what's happening. They don't understand how can you have a vision into the next generation if you're living hand to mouth. That's what I've been experiencing. I don't know if anybody else can weigh in on that. That's why I put that in the chat. There's not much communication.
Yeah, I identify with that for sure. Somebody is logged in as me, so I'm gonna say Evan as a hand raise.
Hi, I'm logged in as you?
Yeah,
Oh, how? Okay.
no.
Um, I'm Chaka. I'm no longer in the vehicle, so I'm really appreciative of being in this space and hearing the stories. Thank you. Uh, I think back about the stories I've heard from my mom. My mom is from Frankfort, Kentucky, and she's done some genealogy and found that we had property owners going a ways back. My mom always talks about the farm that was in our family, my great grandfather's farm, and it was an orchard. Like there were cherries and apples and things of that nature. And I see my mom, she's involved with the community garden at her church, and she gardens extensively. And just seeing how she tries to recreate that with the property that she has access to. But this conversation about how things have been lost either through just like violence, and then also the lack of information or the lack of understanding about systems that are already designed to disenfranchise us. The property was lost and purchased by the state of Kentucky. Um, it was inherited by an aunt who um, just thought she owned it and didn't pay property taxes. So not sure whether she was ever notified about property taxes. Um, that's where the information about what happened gets kind of shaky, but it ended up in the state. And also just thinking about at the time who would have really been going out of their way to let this Black woman know about how to keep property in the family. Oftentimes people pass on before they have an opportunity to educate the next generation and pass on that paperwork and make decisions about who gets what. And so I think that that's also really an important part of the conversation, just how information can get passed on, and how when there is property in our families, we can find people that are going to advocate for us and let us know when something's due, or let us know if we're not following, quote unquote, the system and protocols that we need to follow to keep it.
I think that something that's coming up regularly is about this communication, and some of it's institutional, but then there's the communication. And I want to kind of lean a little bit to Gail here. So, what I will say is, well, I have questions about what your experience was like, and my other aunt is here as well, and they both inherited property from my grandmother. So I'm curious about what the conversations were, if at all, about did you know you were getting the property? How were you prepared, if at all? And then if there was preparation, where did you find the preparation? Was there anything that the preparation left to be desired when you were sitting in the seat, in the driver's seat? Would be questions that I have.
Good questions. And um, I think about many of us who are on this call now are property owners now. Many of us on this call are have descendants, and I'd be curious to know. You don't have to respond right now, but curious to know what your conversations have been. And some of you are holding on to properties that you've acquired in your generation. And as many of you have shared, you're also trying to hold on to heirs property that was passed down from your family. The properties that my grandmother had, there was this silence that no one ever communicated what happens if and when. It's just, this is what you have and this is it. There was never a thought about, well, what do I do with this once I acquire it? It'll just continue to be the way it has been. It'll maintain itself. It'll always look nice. I had no idea yet you paid taxes on land and property. And I'm not being facetious, but I'm just saying there's just some things that you just didn't know. They didn't talk about. You just said, and this is something that you have. It belongs to you. And what was so absent in this acquisition is the business side of the conversation. This property you pay taxes on this. There are utilities that get paid on this. It's yours now. Um, this has to be maintained over here. You do have to insure it. There's so many things that just were not conveyed. So sometimes we go into our inheritances blind and very unprepared financially to sustain them. It's by the grace of God for those of you who have intergenerational properties right now that you have been able to hold on to them. Not that I know anything about your personal financial situations, but I'm just knowing what life is like now. Some of you have had families and some kids through college and still are holding on to properties that you intend to be inherited by heirs. So, what needs to be said about that? So, that was my experience. Nothing was ever said. It was like just it's here. It's always going to be here. Yes, it's wonderful. But then what?
I think that that's
Go on.
so it's a common conversation, and I think it's a common reflection. So I know I kind of deviated from the slides a bit, but if we want to advance a bit, because what I would like this conversation to also be about is what kind of resources could this organization offer aid and support some of these experiences? Is it if it's you're maintaining property currently and need support navigating things, or it may be trying to facilitate conversations with someone you're inheriting property from, or somebody you're trying to pass property to, or I've heard folks have conversations about feeling like the people that they are having to leave the property to, even if they do give them an overview, they don't feel like they're prepared, whether they're just whether it's financial capacity, or just life capacity, um, So, Javel, can you advance the slides a bit? Because I know I skipped around a little bit, but I've enjoyed the conversation. Um, what are, yeah, we skipped some stuff. Um, but what are some resources that, um, what are resources that this organization could offer in the way of programming that you think will be useful either for you or other people that you know are in um, the heirs property or the legacy property um, field?
Hi, this is Daria Brown. There are a number of Browns on the call right now. Not all of us are related, but most of us are. Yeah, you can thank Paige Brown for that. So I was thinking, again, my Aunt Pat spoke earlier, and so we do have this beautiful, absolutely beautiful property, several acres. And I think what would benefit, because somehow this is getting, all of this knowledge is getting passed down in other communities outside of the African American community, right? As you had mentioned earlier. So I put in the chat, this like the need for like a playbook or a handbook. And obviously, your organization could really put that out there. It could be a free resource, or it could be a pay how many ever dollars for it. But within there, I feel like there's the legal aspects of this where it's like, okay, we just need to have like, what is the trust? Is it revocable or is it irrevocable? I can't even pronounce it correctly. Um, and what are some of the other steps that are needed to take to make sure you're protecting the property legally, but then also resourcing? And I think someone mentioned earlier around here are all of the things. This is the checklist of things that you need to make sure that you are whether it's from a maintenance standpoint or whether it's from a communication standpoint, just the things that you need to do to make sure that the property stays in the family, is maintained, and can last for perpetuity. So those are some of the things that are top of mind that I was hoping to get out of this conversation, and also would love to have a resource like your nonprofit to help.
Thank you.
I think those are really great ideas. I love the idea of a playbook. My feeling is that the conversations need to start really early. So there's a whole crop of young people coming up who don't have financial literacy, but they also don't grasp the idea of intergenerational wealth, home ownership. And we have communities outside the African American community who have these Saturday heritage schools, right, where they learn about their culture, their language, their history. Um, and we don't have that. So I'm feeling like there's a need for that, some financial literacy and heritage courses on Saturday that are fun and interesting, just because there's a lack of that. And also, people feel uncomfortable talking about issues related to death. And I don't see that changing very much, even my own parents. And I talked to you about this, Evan, where my mother says, it'll be fine. It'll be okay. Like she doesn't want to talk about the details of, what's going to happen with their home because the concept of death is still uncomfortable. Um,
Yeah, so I like these ideas too. And I especially love the idea that you have, Evan, you and your mom. At one time I did estate planning. I was a estate planner and I was pretty good at it. But I kind of let it go. And I know it's very complicated. Estate planning is very complicated. And not only that, it changes over the years. It could change from year to year, the laws and the regulations and things like that. So I think we need to think about also engaging professionals, professional lawyers that work in estate planning, professional accountants that work in estate planning, and professional insurance people, because, you know, when you pass property, when you pass anything, you need insurance to add liquidity to your state, so your state doesn't, you know, get in the hands of your creditors or the tax man. It's complicated, and you know, it's something that maybe if we pulled our resources together, made some concerted efforts to you know, to really protect our property, protect ourselves as a group, you know, maybe we could generate other groups and things like that. But yes, we losing 90% of our land. I mean, that is no joke. What are you in this world without land? I don't know. We have enough problems as it is, and a lot of them are related to this kind of voter disenfranchisement, which has been happening to us for over, you know, ever since we got the right to vote practically. So I think this is an important step. If we think about a strategic plan for Black America, I think this would have to be at the top of our list, maintaining the land that we do have and acquiring more land. This is what some indigenous people are doing that lost their land. They're just buying up more land. And I think we could do that, even though I hate to think about that, but somehow we've got to get our foot back in the door, because we just, you know, our future is dim if we don't get land back. You know, so this is the direction I think we should go. And I think that you're going in that direction. I applaud it. And I would just want to thank you.
Other other resources. I know we're getting closer to the end of time, but anything other tools or resources that you think would be useful on this journey?
Hello, everyone. One of the things that I think would be really helpful for a lot of landowners, a lot of times people are or families are running into issues with maintaining the properties. So if there's opportunities for assessments for the properties for revenue projection to figure out, you know, what the land could be potentially used for to help generate revenue to help the families with maintaining them or doing anything like that, whether it's farming or whatever, you know, some other options that may be available to them.
Okay. This has been a really great conversation. So I would like to, if there are people who are already on this call who either work in this space or um, have resources that they would like to share, you can have, we're happy to have you put them in the chat. We are taking note of all of these recommendations, in addition to some other things that we would like to kind of move forward. So this is extremely useful. Can we go to the next slide, please? So we are hoping to have a community conversation every month on the fourth Monday of every month. Next month, the fourth Monday is on Memorial Day, so we're scheduling it for May 19th. And everyone won't be like this. We'll have specific topics. We are starting to amass a list of people who are experts in their field, whether it's estate planning, or mediation or restorative justice facilitation, some contractors. So we'll have some different topics each month, and these will be virtual. We will also have some in-person programming in the city of Chicago sometime in the near future. So if there are those of you who are on this call who are in that field or would like to partner to advance this a bit, please, I think our email address is at the end of this. And I think at this juncture, I'm going to turn it over to one of my team members, which is Lakeisha Lockett. She has some things to share. Also, while we're talking and hearing from her, there are some poll questions that are going to pop up on your screen. We would love to get your feedback, just to kind of understand who's in the room as we are gathering data to make sure that we understand how to serve you better. So, all right, Ms. Lockett.
Hello. Hi, everyone. And thank you for sharing so many wonderful ideas. It was really inspiring hearing from the different stories and ideas about how Blondina's heirs can move this work forward. And just want to thank you again for taking the time to be here. And just a reminder that this work is more than just about preserving property, it's about honoring the past, building a future rooted in legacy, a future rooted in healing and generational wealth for Black families. So you've heard a lot of inspiring stories, and again, just thinking about keeping our heritage through storytelling, through advocacy, and through community conversations like we had today. Um, and what we're hoping to do, as Evan said, is just continue to support families at every stage, from really understanding the value of their inheritance to preserving it for generations to come. But of course, that work cannot be done alone. So you can support this work by donating, by volunteering, or simply by sharing the mission, sharing future community conversations with people who you know. There's lots of families who want this information. There are some people, like Evan said, who are experts in this area. So even just simply sharing the work that we're doing would really help. And, we're just inviting you to join us. And a link has it been dropped in the chat?
There is a link, we're gonna drop it, but also it seems like there's a little technical difficulty with it, so we'll email it to you, excuse me, after this.
Okay, so yes, so we will email the link in the chat to get more involved, to help, to donate, to just move this mission forward. And we really just want us to all together preserve Morgan homes. We want to preserve family legacy and really help to create the financial security for future generations. So thank you so much.
So in the last couple of minutes, as Lakeisha mentioned, we are hoping to partner and be able to bring some of these resources and hopefully get funding to be able to provide those at either a discounted cost or for free for families who need these kind of resources. So that's where your donations will be going to. In this first quarter, we're hoping to raise about $25,000 towards this effort for all the operational costs, but also just to make sure that we can serve some folks. So we will send an additional link to you in your email. And so please consider donating to support this effort. So I want to go, I think I'm out of order, but if we can go, actually, let me go to the end and then I'm gonna go back a couple of slides. So let's go here. So I want to just thank all of the people who kind of contributed to making this happen. Bustling Spaces is an organization that has supported us operationally and in our fundraising and programmatic execution. That is Javelle and Paige and Henry Wishcamper, who is the founder. And they've been really instrumental in making sure that we were able to roll this out. The team members who have worked with me internally, Sam, Ms. Lockett, Ms. Whitehurst, and then our board of directors and our advisory board. So it has been this is the beginning of conversations and some of the programming that we want to do. And we're excited about being able to do more. And I just want to thank the people who have participated in making this happen. So as we close out, can we go back a couple slides to our why? Because I think it's important for us to think about, go right back to the, just two forward, please. Think about why these components, why this experience is important. So I want to just close by hearing from some people about what your why is. One more slide. There you go. What is your why? And what is your why for why are you investing the time and energy to think about either how you will inherit or how you will pass down property. Why are you investing the time to preserve the property and the resources? And which I'm sure some difficult conversations. Why are you, what is your why? Related to your property, because so many times we know that our why, if we remember why we're doing something, it gives us a little bit of energy for the road. So if there are people who would like to share why they think they're engaging and uh, continuing to invest in this process, I would love to hear it as a closing.
Well, I'll go as one of Blondena's heirs. And, my why for doing this is because I am now, we're sitting on generation number 5, a fifth generation of the property that Blondena acquired, that she built, and that has been maintained through this family since the late 50s. So, as so many of you have talked about the importance of land, to be able to hold on to it, but at the same time to repurpose it, to redefine its purpose, so that those descendants, and there are several more descendants and heirs to Blondena's Michigan property, could benefit from it. So I want to be able to not only to be able to maintain it, to hold on to it, to repurpose it, to redefine it for generations to come, and certainly have all of the legal paperwork in place so that it would pass smoothly and effortlessly for generation 5 and beyond.
Thank you. Any other closing?
Evan, can you hear me? This is Yvonne, your Aunt Yvonne. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it was a wonderful monumental feat that you presented here for the advancement of the knowledge of our people. Uh, the lack of information kept us from being able to do what we needed to do to restore ourselves in this country, as we were indigenous and did have the land before. I hear the president is going to bring back Columbus Day. So everybody else in the country should be writing to remind him Columbus didn't discover America. And everybody else should be educated to the fact that Black people were already here. And the first rule in economics is all there is the land. And I heard that other matching rule to it. So I appreciate the people that I'm heard on this meeting tonight, because they're of the era that acquired the most land in these United States of America. Uh, Negroes, as your grandfather used to say, and Americans born in Africa, I mean, of African ancestry. So the land is very important. It's about emotion and economics and everything else. And I'm glad that you are taking the lead in educating our people on what to do to be able to restore our land, reclaim our land, and restore ourselves too. So I congratulate you, dear heart.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you. And I would say my why has everything to do with the extended family and the foundation that created around the properties that we're trying to preserve. It is in those places that we pulled those stories that we pulled from that gave us strength about our identity. It is in those places that our extended family was developed. And those are relationships, the relationships that my great grandmother created are still people that we call family today. And so those things happened in those spaces, and they happened as a result of that visionary. And I believe that it's worth the effort um, to preserve the vision of someone who had not just a vision about property and wealth, but the wealth of our first and most important institution, which is our family. So I thank you all so much for spending this hour with us. I do hope that you will join us again. And I bid you good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
And Boisasa, be well and safe and well, beloveds.
Wasasa.